it's Stephanie Hansen again with Stephanie's Dish. I am making fish chowder today, and I am so excited about this recipe. I made it for my mother-in-law about a week ago, and it was fantastic. So we are starting with about 4 strips of bacon that I just cut into chunks, and we're gonna be giving that a little zhuzh. So we're gonna go ahead and get these bacon pieces cooked off. I'm gonna just brown them, and then I'm gonna put them on a paper towel while I manage whatever bacon grease we have in the pan here. This soup has cod in it, but you could do it with salmon. You could even do it with shrimp. You could do it with scallops. Fish is pretty interchangeable and pretty forgiving, so whatever feels good to you. We're gonna be using clam juice instead of broth as our base, which is gonna be fun. And I've got potatoes all cut up. I've got a bunch of different kinds of potatoes. I've got russets, I've got Yukon Golds. I just kind of took whatever I had left in my pantry, frankly. Because that's what soup is, right? It's a good clean out the pantry situation. Lots of dribs, lots of drabs. We're getting a nice fond on the bottom of the pan. That is where all the flavor is gonna come from. So you might be wondering what the difference is between a soup and a chowder. We looked this up. Chowder is something that typically has cream and seafood. So you could even use like oysters in here, clams. Canned clams are particularly delicious when you can cook with them. So we're gonna go ahead and remove the bacon. And it doesn't look like it's super fatty. You wanna leave about 2 tablespoons of oil behind. And we're gonna end up putting this back into the soup at the end. Okay, so we have our bacon grease. To that, we're going to add 2 tablespoons of butter, and then we are going to add 1 cut onion. It's about a cup, and about a cup of celery. So we've got our butter melting, and we're cooking our onions and our celery. And you'll notice I'm using my Stursby, again, not a paid endorsement, just an amazing tool. You could use any wooden spoon, but you are scratching up the fond on the bottom of the pan just to get that mixed into your vegetables because there's a lot of flavor there. All right, so we're gonna just let our onions and celery do their thing a minute. So much delicious flavor building in our pot with the celery and the onions. Okay, we're just cooking these till they're a little translucent. At this point, we are going to add in our garlic, and it's about 2 tablespoons, and that's about 4 cloves minced, depending on how large. And I always add garlic after the onions because garlic tends to burn and give you a bitter flavor. So I always want to make sure the onions have had plenty of a head start. All right, at this point, I'm also going to add a 1/4 cup of flour, and I'm going to stir that right in with the vegetables and the butter. It's kind of making a roux, as it were, because it's mixing with the butter, it's coating the vegetables, and it's gonna give us a little bit of thickness on our soup. You do have to cook the flour off though, so it doesn't taste like pasty. To this we are adding 3 cups of clam juice. This is gonna give us a really delicious base for our soup with tons of briny, salty, seafoody flavor. All right. And at this point, we are also going to add in our potatoes. We're going to add in our thyme, which is our primary seasoning. We're also using Old Bay, about 2 tablespoons of that. And that's going to give us a little bit of peppery heat. 2 cups of heavy cream. And we're going to let this come to a boil. All right, our soup has been boiling away and our potatoes are cooked. We've got Worcestershire sauce, we've got salt, we've got pepper. We had about a tablespoon of salt, about a teaspoon of pepper, And we're gonna add cod chunks. We're also gonna add a little bit of hot sauce. And you can make it hotter if you'd like. I usually use about a teaspoon. And stir that in. And we're gonna let this go about another 6 minutes, which is gonna cook the actual chunks of fish. And we're gonna squeeze in a little lemon juice too. And then we're gonna finish at the very end with the bacon and the parsley. We wanna make sure that our fish chunks are cooked first. If ever the soup gets too thick, or you feel like you want it a little bit thinner, just go ahead and add a little bit more broth. You can either use the clam broth, you can use chicken broth, you can use water, or you can use some of the skim milk. Some people like their chowder a little less thick. All right, so just letting the fish chunks do their magic before we finish up this delicious soup. Our chowder is finished. It is the right consistency, not too thick, not too thin. It has our thyme leaves, our Old Bay seasoning. We're gonna add our bacon, and we cooked that off early on. Get that in there, and then a lot of chopped parsley, about a 1/4 cup. And if you don't love as much parsley, you don't have to put as much, but I think it's good to always have a little bit of green in your soup as a finish. When you serve it, you can serve it with oyster crackers that are just the little teeny tiny crackers, not really oysters. Or you could serve it with a little squeeze of lemon, a little more Tabasco, whatever your sitch is. Let's just have a little try, shall we? The moment we've all been waiting for. I want to get a little chunk of fish in there so I can, here's one. Okay, that looks really delicious. This is really amazing. The crispy little bacon bit is delicious. The creaminess of the potato. You can really taste the Old Bay. I had just the right amount of Tabasco in there. So if you like a little more, it feels kind of zippy with the Old Bay. The celery's cooked, but not completely mushed down. Here's a little piece of the cod that we used. Tender, not overly cooked. This is just a darn great chowder, if I do say so myself. Make it. You can find this recipe and many others that are also delicious at stephaniesdish.com.